You want to fight about when the best time to eat is? Well, there's plenty of places where that can happen on the internet because everyone likes to tout what they think is the best. But when you look at the large bodies of data, it's pretty evident. Now, there's no denying that the best time to eat is going to be the best time to eat that you can stick to for a long time and have good results, right? I mean, if you find something that works for you, great. But let's look at the literature. Now, this is going to come as a little bit of a surprise because most people see me as a guy that touts intermittent fasting, and I certainly do. But I also tout intermittent fasting as something that you do relatively infrequent in comparison to your normal eating patterns. Like fasting is like a shock to the system. Let's look at this literature and let's uncover some stuff. First, I want to break down a study that was published in the journal PLOS One that took a look at 1,245 people over the course of 6 years. And it looked at a lot of different things. And it looked at what time they would eat breakfast, it looked at what time they ate dinner, but most importantly, it looked at how much they ate for breakfast, how much they ate for lunch, and how much they ate for dinner. And over the course of 6 years, who really had the best overall outcome? They wanted to look at things like non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, they wanted to look at metabolic syndrome, they looked at blood sugar, insulin, they looked at their weight, of course, their BMI. Okay, and what they ultimately found, and this is gonna sound like it's completely giving away this video, but trust me, there's more detail. They simply found that the more calories people ate at dinner, the harder it was for them to lose weight, and the more metabolic syndrome there was, and the more fatty liver there was. Why is this? I mean, when you look at large bodies of data like this is what we call observational, where it doesn't give us a heck of a lot of detail, but when we understand mechanisms and we have sort of a repository of information from the past, we can look at this. Mechanistically, at night, you're a lot less insulin sensitive. That means that the foods that you do take in, even if it's a small amount of less insulin sensitivity, if you're consuming most of your calories then, it's harder for your body to assimilate and use that fuel properly. You're less insulin sensitive. So being less insulin sensitive on its own could be problematic, but you couple that with stacking the majority of your calories there, and it's even more problematic. So by show of hands, how many people probably eat most of their calories at dinner, right? It happens, right? I try not to, but it happens. Now, additionally, what happens is in the morning, you have higher levels of thermogenesis. So when you eat food, your likelihood of incinerating those calories as heat is much, much higher. Okay? As the day goes on, thermogenesis decreases. So from a pure caloric standpoint, not just insulin, it's a little harder to oxidize all those fuels. Then we combine this with habit nighttime eating. And this is something I've talked about like ad nauseum. The day goes on, you get fatigued, you make crappier decisions. Okay? We have bad habits of nighttime eating, but you couple that with poor insulin sensitivity, and you couple that with lower fat oxidation. Okay, plus the mental fatigue and the bad decisions that you're making. And then of course there's the circadian clock piece where I don't need to explain that anymore. You've got circadian cues that you need to align, and by eating when you're not designed to fuel, it doesn't make sense. But this is stuff you've heard before, so I hope you haven't clicked off the video because I've got some stuff that's even more exciting that's based on relatively newer science that even gets down to the specific times that we should be eating. And then I also have a strategy on how to deploy fasting strategies appropriately with this. So we'll kind of get into all of it. One thing that I think that people should pay attention to is like having something tasty to look forward to in the morning, right? Consolidate your protein, consolidate your fuels in the morning. I did put a link down below if you like good steak for ButcherBox. Steak and eggs is arguably one of the best breakfasts that you can have. If you look at the bodies of research I look at, and I could be biased, okay, but I like steak and eggs. I also like ground beef and eggs. That is a tremendous breakfast. It's calorically dense, I get my calories in the morning, and it's amazing. So I put a link down below for ButcherBox where you can get grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Their grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef and bison is like amazing and their fillets are unreal, but they don't just have red meat. They have steak, they have chicken, they have scallops, they have pork, they have everything you could think of. They have bacon, they have hot dogs that are grass-fed, grass-finished. They have it all. Indulge in breakfast. Enjoy the food in breakfast. Then you can relax and you can be in control a little bit more throughout the rest of the day. So now let's look at this other paper that breaks down when to eat in the morning. So this is a 12-week study that was published in the journal Nutrients. It had subjects eat at various times in the morning, and then they kind of consolidated it into averages. One average was starting eating at about 6:48 a.m. Another average was averaged to about 8:11 a.m. We're not even talking a 90-minute difference, okay? But the difference was unreal. There was a 3.8% weight loss in the group that ate at 6:48 a.m. There was a 2.2% weight loss in the group that started eating at 8:11 a.m. What do I mean by this? Like, what are we getting here? It means that even inside of that 90-minute difference, there's a huge delta. There's a huge difference in how much weight you lose. Why? Because of the circadian cues, the hyperinsulin sensitivity, and just the decision-making power. We could go on and on with different mechanisms, but the earlier that you eat in the morning after you get out of bed, right at sunrise would be ideal. It seems to have the biggest impact. Simply waiting until after 8 o'clock, they ate more and they lost less weight, which sounds so counterintuitive because you're like, oh, well, with fasting, it doesn't make sense because with fasting, one of the reasons I lose weight is I have a shorter eating window, so I eat less and I lose weight. I believe that to be true when you have a very consolidated eating window. Like if you're waiting until 12 or 1, that's a lot different than going from 6:48 to 8:11. My point is this: if you choose to eat in the morning, and it is a day that you're not deploying fasting strategies, it makes far more sense to just eat early than it does to dilly-dally and sit in this wishy-washy phase of kind of fasting, kind of not, and eat at like 8:11, right? Roll out of bed, get some activity in, and then eat and start your day right. It makes a ton of sense. So here's what I would recommend you do. 4 or 5 days out of the week, eat early. If you really need to lose weight, you need to lose belly fat, you need to do that. Make your decisions shortly after you get out of bed. I just recommend you exercise a little bit first. I full-heartedly get behind a little bit of fasted exercise, even if it's just 15 minutes. Then eat your early morning meal early and eat a lot of your calories then, and let the rest of the day sort of be gravy and reduce your calories. Then 2 to 3 days out of the week, aggressively restrict via fasting, and maybe don't eat until 11, 12, 1, 2, whatever your heart desires in that sense. That way, fasting is not like the primary lifestyle for you. The primary lifestyle is eating breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, and dinner like a pauper, and doing it according to the literature. The other days are doing it according to the fasting literature that suggests shorter eating windows are effective for circadian cues and for overall fat loss. It allows you to get the best of both worlds. So as always, keep it locked in here on my channel. I'll see you tomorrow.